A subscription charge appears on your statement, but you do not remember buying anything that day. There was no checkout screen, no new confirmation button, no moment when you actively decided, yes, charge me now. The action happened earlier. You started a free trial, entered a payment method, and gained access. Then time passed. When the trial reached its renewal point, the service continued and the stored payment method was charged. That sequence is called trial to paid auto-renewal. The important question is not simply why a free trial can become paid. It is how one active decision made at sign up can create a later paid outcome without another active purchase decision at the billing moment. To understand that, start with the charge and trace the system backward. The charge is the final visible event. Before that came the paid subscription state. Before that came the renewal boundary. Before that came a trial period. And before all of those came the original sign-up, where the user accepted the trial conditions and supplied a payment method. The system does not usually treat the later billing date as a completely separate purchase. It treats it as the next stage of an agreement that was already active. That distinction changes how the entire experience works. At sign-up, the user makes an active choice. The user selects the trial, provides the required information, and begins access. But the system also establishes a future default. A default is what happens when no new action is taken. In this case, the default is continuation. When the trial ends, the subscription moves forward into a paid state unless the user changes that outcome beforehand. So the sequence contains two different kinds of decision. The first is active. The user deliberately starts the trial. The second is passive. The renewal outcome occurs because the existing state remains unchanged. Inaction does not create a blank result. It produces the result already built into the subscription structure. This is why the later transaction can feel new to the user, even though the system treats it as continuation. The user sees a new charge. The billing system sees the next scheduled event in an existing subscription. Now picture the process as a timeline moving from left to right. The first point is active sign-up. The user chooses the trial and provides a payment method. The second point is the trial period. Access continues while no payment may yet be collected under that offer. The third point is the renewal boundary. This is the moment when the trial state is scheduled to change. From that boundary, the timeline has two branches. On one branch, the user cancels before renewal. The continuation default is changed, and the account follows the cancellation outcome described by that product's terms. On the other branch, no cancellation occurs. The default remains unchanged. The account moves into the paid subscription state and recurring billing begins. After that, the timeline can continue through future billing periods until the subscription is cancelled or another condition changes the account. The key event is not a new purchase click at the renewal boundary. The key event is that the continuation branch was already selected as the default when the trial began. This is the core mechanism. An active sign-up creates a future state in which no later action produces paid continuation. A current example can be found in Spotify's United States subscription structure. As reviewed in July 2026, Spotify's United States terms describe certain trial offers that require payment details. Under those offers, the subscription can move from the trial into a paid plan unless it is cancelled before the applicable trial ends. The exact trial duration, price, eligibility conditions, and billing interval can vary by offer. A subscription billed through another company may also follow a different cancellation route. So the example must remain narrow. A user in the United States on an applicable offer billed directly through Spotify under the terms available at that time. Within that boundary, the example shows the mechanism clearly. The user actively starts the trial. The payment method is stored. The trial runs for the period attached to the offer. The renewal boundary arrives. If the user has not cancelled, the account continues into the paid state. The later charge follows from the earlier agreement and the unchanged default. Spotify's current support information also distinguishes between ordinary paid access and cancellation during a zero-price trial. Under the documented United States flow, reviewed in July 2026, cancelling during that kind of trial can move the account to Spotify free immediately. That detail matters because the cancellation branch is not merely the paid branch without a charge. It can produce a different account state and a different timing outcome. But the main system remains the same. The account does not wait for a fresh purchase decision at the exact moment the trial ends. It follows the state established earlier unless that state is changed. This structure serves a practical function. Automatic continuation reduces interruption. A subscriber who still wants the service does not have to return, re-enter payment information, and approve the same access again at every renewal point. The system keeps the subscription active and the service available. For the business, the same structure produces more predictable, recurring revenue. Instead of requiring every customer to make a new purchase decision at each billing period, the system continues existing subscriptions until they are cancelled. Those two benefits are connected. The user receives continuity. The provider receives continuity of billing. But the structure also creates a trade-off. The moment of active consent and the moment of financial consequence are separated. At sign-up, the trial is immediate and visible. The future charge may be days, weeks, or another offer-defined period away. By the time the billing event arrives, the sign-up moment may no longer feel recent. The user may remember starting the trial, but not experience the later renewal as part of the same transaction. This is the consumer blind spot in the system. It is not necessarily that the future billing condition was absent. It is that the condition is accepted at one moment and executed at another. The user's attention is concentrated at the beginning. The system's financial consequence arrives later. Research on defaults helps explain why this matters. A default determines what happens when no new decision is made. Remaining with the default usually requires less action than changing it. The existing state can also feel like the normal or expected path simply because it is already in place. But default effects are not identical in every setting. People remain subscribed for many different reasons. Some actively want the service. Some value uninterrupted access. Some may not consider the renewal important enough to revisit. In some cases, inattention or inertia may contribute. The evidence does not support treating every renewal as accidental. It supports a narrower point. When continuation is the default, the system does not require the same level of active decision-making at renewal that it required at sign-up. That difference is enough to explain the observable result. A future charge can occur without a fresh active purchase decision. The charge is real. The earlier consent may also be real. What changes is the timing and form of the decision. The first stage asks for action. The later stage depends on the absence of action. This is also why the word renewal can be slightly misleading in ordinary conversation. To a user, renewal may sound like a moment when someone actively chooses again. Inside an auto-renewing subscription, renewal can instead be a scheduled state transition. The subscription reaches the boundary, checks whether cancellation or another change has occurred, and continues when the original default remains in place. The system is not asking, "Would you like to buy this again right now?" It is checking, "Has the existing continuation instruction been changed?" That is a different question. It creates a different user experience, and it explains why the transaction can feel sudden, even when the system has followed a previously established sequence. The distinction also helps separate mechanism from intent. Automatic renewal does not by itself establish deception. It does not prove that a provider expected a particular user to forget. It does not prove that the later charge was hidden, unauthorized, or unwanted. It does not prove that every subscriber would have cancelled if asked again. Notice, consent, cancellation, and renewal rules also differ across markets and products. The exact offer language, billing structure, and cancellation outcome must be evaluated within the relevant service and jurisdiction. The Federal Trade Commission describes free-to-pay conversions and automatic renewals as forms of negative option arrangements. In these systems, silence or failure to take affirmative action can be treated as agreement to continue. That category includes both benefits and risks. It can reduce repeated transaction effort and support uninterrupted service. It can also create consumer harm when disclosure, consent, or cancellation is inadequate. Those are separate questions from the existence of auto-renewal itself. The mechanism explains what happens when no action is taken. The quality of the disclosure and consent determines whether the user was given a fair and understandable basis for that outcome. The cancellation design determines how easily the default can be changed, and the relevant rules determine what the provider is required to do in that market. This video is not resolving every one of those legal or product-specific questions. It is isolating the underlying system. An active sign-up establishes a future default. The trial creates access now and a scheduled transition later. The payment method makes the transition operationally possible. The renewal boundary changes the account state. No cancellation leaves the continuation instruction intact. The paid charge appears as the final visible result. Seen separately, the beginning and the end can feel disconnected. Seen as one timeline, they are part of the same chain. That timeline also reveals why reminder messages, account pages, billing dates, and cancellation controls matter. They sit between the active choice and the default outcome. They can make the future transition more visible or less visible. They can make the default easier or harder to change. But they do not replace the central mechanism. The defining feature is still that continuation happens unless the state is changed. This is different from a one-time purchase. In a one-time purchase, the transaction generally ends after the product or service is delivered. In an auto-renewing subscription, the account remains in an ongoing state. Billing is not a separate starting point each time. It is one recurring output of that state. That is why the later charge can arrive without another checkout. The subscription is not being created again. It is being continued. Once that distinction is clear, the apparent anomaly becomes easier to understand. The user experiences two moments: sign up and charge. The system experiences one continuing agreement moving through different states. At the beginning, Active choice creates the path. At the renewal point, the default determines whether that path continues. So the most useful way to understand a free trial is not simply free now, paid later. It is active choice now. Default continuation later. A later subscription charge can be the execution of an earlier agreement under an unchanged default, rather than a new active purchase decision.